Okay, ceramics 1 and possibly ceramics 2. I'm going to demonstrate how to make a clay rattle. We're going to be using the pinch pot technique. So these are some previous demonstrations from years past. These are quite large, as you can see my hand. So we make a hollow form and we make little clay balls that we let dry out. And before we close the pinch pot up, we put those clay balls in, and that's what gives us the sound. This one stands up, a little Day of the Dead rattle, and this is a little guy. So the shape of the rattle, or the sound of the rattles, and the thickness of the actual form itself helps on the sound. So what you're going to need for this, we're going to be using a needle tool or a paper clip. My favorite flexible metal rib, and a modeling stick, and our fingers. Okay, we move these out of the way. So what you want to do is to make your balls of clay first. They could be of any size or varying sizes and shapes. They don't have to be round. If you wanted to, you could make little pointed things like this and they will have a unique sound. You can do them varying sizes. I've made rattles where they are really tiny balls of clay. They work, but you can only hear them if your form itself is really thin. So make your balls of clay in advance, put them in a little tray like this or something, put them outside. In a day like today where it's 105, they'll be totally dry in a half an hour or so. So make these in advance, and then you want to start your pinch pot. So again, we will be doing the same technique. We're going to get a ball of clay. We're going to put our thumb inside, fingers on the outside. Those are pretty weird looking fingers, aren't they? And then we're going to begin to pinch. The technique here is, though, we're going to be pinching, and instead of the first little pinch pot I made into a covered container, we're actually going to close it off. So I will show you how to do that and prepare to put the balls of clay in. So I have two pieces of clay right now. One is for the rattle base itself, so I'm going to round this off. Okay, and I'm pounding away here. Make it round. Try to get any creases or folds smoothed out. Okay, and make it round like you're making a snowball. Okay. And when it's round, you can set her down. Okay, so there's the round ball. This is going to be for the top. And like I did before, I showed you guys how I wobble this. And we're going to do this here like I made the puffy heart container. Now, with working with clay, there's a couple important facts to understand. Oh, camera moved a little bit. One is, if clay is thicker than your finger, it's going to need to be hollowed out. And I'll show how to do that. Also, if it's thicker than your finger, that means for a pinch pot, you can pinch it thinner. But you cannot have trapped air. Trapped air will cause a piece to blow up. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to make a rattle that's totally encased with air trapped, and we're going to make a hole for the air to escape. That is always important. It'd be unfortunate you to spend an hour or two making an amazing rattle, and then you didn't put an air hole in it, and it either cracks and falls apart before it ever goes to the kiln, or when it goes to the kiln, it blows up, and you have nothing for all that effort. So, again, we'll start here making the base. And this is going to be a good size rattle because I'm going to make it thin. I want it to really sound awesome. So again, I have the clay in my hand. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm just going to press in like a spike, and I'm going to go all the way until I feel pressure on my palm. And when I have it, remember, I'm pinching here. I'll do it again. Oh, let me get my modeling stick off the floor. So here, I'll do this again to show you how slowly I rotate the clay. You don't need this. I'm doing this for your benefit. So there is my thumb, and my fingers are going to be touching right there. And I'm just going to pinch once. You notice I'm not pinching with my fingertips. My fingertips are flat. And so I'm pinching just in the same spot as I slowly rotate the clay. Okay, and I'm going to go all the way around once. And you'll feel it when you come to where you started. Okay, now I'm going to move up about a finger's width where it's thick again, and I'm going to pinch again. And again, I'm going in one complete circle at that elevation or ring all the way around. And again, you will feel it when you get to where you started because it'll be thin. There you go. And look how thick it is up here. That's what we want. So move up again. And I'm going to use my fingertips again. I'm actually using the whole finger and my thumb. I'm just pressing like that. Okay. So if your fingers get tired, you know, maybe you're ambidextrous and you're going to switch hands, or maybe you're just going to give your fingers a break, shake them. But usually when I demonstrate this in class, I got 34 kids, and every one of them wants a little help on how to pinch the pot. And by that time, my fingers are really tired. So you notice, like I did the first pinch pot, our little covered container. Let me get that and show you. Okay, this one is straight up, but this one here is going to be curved in. When it's straight up, my thumb is straight up. This, I'm actually going to curve it in, so I'm about at the halfway point, and instead of having my thumb out or straight, I'm actually now going to be pinching inwards. Look at the angle of my thumb. So I'm going to go around and do another rotation at another elevation, but I'm pinching inward. Okay, and I'm working my way around. And I'll show you a technique to thin the rattle out, okay? Trying to make sure I get this centered so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, and this little guy here, you can see that one. I'll put that there. You can see that while I do this. Okay. So you can see how it's coming up, and now I'm going to close it, start to close it off. And the angle of my thumb determines the shape I'm creating. And now what I'm doing is I'm pressing, but I'm smearing. So I'm rubbing my thumb on the inside, and you can see the angle of striations from my fingers. Right? And we can smooth all that out, and we can actually change the shape of this rattle once it is closed off. But see how narrow the opening is? And my thickness is about 1/4 inch. So at this thickness, the sound, you'll hear those little clay balls rattle in there, but the sound won't be very loud because of the density or the thickness of the clay. So I want to keep this diameter on the opening, but I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. So look what I'm doing. I'm going to go from the very bottom with my fingertips, and I'm just going to rub and rotate this around, and that is going to cause the clay to stretch and thin out a little bit. Okay. And that thinning will make the rattle sound better. You can see the finger marks inside. Okay, so I'm going to do this right now. That's it. Yeah. Now, okay, so I'm going to keep this upside down, so I don't want this to flatten. I don't want the bottom to flatten, so that's why I'm going to set it on this rim. And now I'm going to make the top for that. Now remember, when we made the flange for this, we pinched, but I'll show you what I'm going to do now. So there's a little flower. I'll put that back. So this one, I'm going to press in the center, but then, now look at my angle of my thumb. If I was going to make it straight, my thumb would be straight. Look at it splayed out, and I'm going to press just in the center first, and I'm going to make like a little dish, okay? And that little, again, the angle of my thumb is going to determine the shape. And I'm going to make this kind of domed to complete that spherical form there. I can drop it to make it kind of level. Okay, and look, you see how thick it is, so I'm going to thin it out some more. Thin it out. Yeah, now I'm going to stretch this a little bit because I want the sound to be nice on this end. So you see that's like a little half dome happening here. Now the intention is we're going to put the balls of clay in there, and I'm going to put this directly on top, and I'm going to seal it and then shape it to the shape of the rattle that I want. So what I'm going to do now is add all these. Let's see if we can pour these in. Most of them. Nope. Okay. So if the balls are dry, they might stick to the inside of the rattle, but once it is bisque fired, and most definitely high fired, all those balls of clay will come loose, okay? So, And once we trap air, this is hollow, and I'm going to seal this up. So, yeah. So now I'll do this first. I'm going to just score. That's going to get a little flat. I'm going to score right here. I'm just going to go on the edge and use a little bit of water here. Okay. Yeah, now I'll do the same to this. And again, when you have soft clay, you don't need a lot of water to score. We're just trying to develop that paste, and you can see it start to appear as I scratch. So if your clay is really firm and drying out on you, maybe you're working out on the patio or something, you'll need that spray bottle with water and continually be spraying your work. And you'll see, though, you spray the water, the clay will drink it right up. Never leave your clay unattended, especially outside. In heat like this, a piece could dry out in just a few minutes. And it's really hard to bring or to rehydrate it back to the moisture consistency you need to work with the material. So I'm just going to put a little bit more water on that. So I'm like this, and now I'm going to twist to get it to lock. Watch my scoring video. Now I want to make sure that this air is trapped and no air escapes, and this thing stays in a round sphere. So I'm going to start in one area, and I like to use the edge of my finger, and I'm going to smear and make sure I totally seal the lid to the base. Okay. I could already feel the little balls of clay inside rolling around. So I'm using the side of my finger to blend it. Okay. There. So now I know it's sealed. Now I need to clean this up. So whenever you're working on a radius or a surface that has a rounded edge, use the radius edge of this rib. If you had a straight side, like if I was trying to scrape something like this, I would use the straight side. But since this is curved, I'm going to use the radius edge. First, I'm going to blend. Okay, and make sure that is good and sealed. So essentially we're trapping air, and the trapped air will help the shape, or the form hold its shape rather. So make sure it's sealed. Sometimes if you get it too thin, you'll have an air leak. And essentially, if I had a hole where I pressed too thin, I could take a piece of clay like this, make a little clay band-aid if that was a hole, and I could smooth that over, and that would patch that hole, meaning air wouldn't escape. Because as I start to apply pressure on this, if there's a hole, it's going to collapse. But if there is no hole and the trapped air can't escape, then I'm going to have the internal resistance to actually achieve the shape. So now first I'm just going to roll it and take away that seam. Okay, and I can do this. And be careful, you can get carried away with this, so I'm really handling this gently. And I'll make another skull. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to do it kind of sideways. The camera is off to my right, but I'm going to get the shape of the head. Okay, and this is where the head is going to sit. Okay, and I'm going to get a couple of thumbs wet, and I'm going to say my eyes are going to be right here. Okay, so look at that. There's my eyes. And maybe I'll make another skull again. That seems to be a popular motif nowadays. Day of the Dead's coming up in October. Right. And we can do this. A couple of nostril holes. You can make the sockets deep if you want. See how it's starting to split? The clay is starting to give. So I'm just taking not a lot of water. Don't drown it. Okay. Yeah, and then the mouth would be here. I'm going to just rock it and smooth that area where the mouth is. I didn't put very much weight. I barely had it touch the surface of the table. But you can see it's a give and take here. Now, I have the trapped air. And if I wanted it to collapse a little bit, look at this technique. I'm going to have a little clay band-aid ready. I'll use this paper clip as a model or a needle tool. I'm going to make an opening, and I want the cheeks, where the cheeks would have been, or like a skeleton, it's sunken in. So now that I have that hole, air is able to escape, and I am able to collapse this in. Now I get it to where I want it. Now I want to cover that hole up. Just a little tiny bit of water and a little tiny clay band-aid, and I'm going to seal that hole up. If I don't, it'll keep collapsing on me as I'm working with it. Okay. So now, good, I have that little sunken area I wanted. And I have some work to do, but I would let it firm up a little bit. But I want to show you how to make some teeth. Now, I have this chisel point here. You see that screwdriver edge? And I'm going to use this to make teeth. First, I'm going to take and I'm bending this, and I'm just going to figure out where the top and bottom jaw is. Okay? And I can go like this, laying this flat in my hand and parallel with the surface. I can go like this tool and just make little, insinuate those are teeth. Okay. Wish you guys were in the studio. It's awfully quiet in here. Hopefully you guys will be in here in the classroom soon. That's what I'm hoping. So here's a few teeth, right, for my skeleton. And I'm going to turn it upside down. Well, I'm getting a crack. As clay dries, it shrinks. And when you have trapped air, the air needs to escape. So generally what happens is the clay cracks, and you have a failure on the surface of the clay, and that lets the air out. And if you catch it while the clay is still moist, you'll be able to recover, fix the crack, but make sure you make an air hole so the air can escape. Oh, I could do a lot more work, but I'm just going to make this look like now these teeth are separated. I'm not cutting all the way through, but I'm pulling down and giving that illusion that that is separate. Okay. Yeah. And I could I already showed you how to make the rose on this one, so I could do like this. I could put a couple of roses for eyes, yeah? Now, this is a good tool to have, a blow dryer. This spots dry thing. So instead of, waiting at room temperature, okay, that class is over. Waiting at room temperature could take a long time, but this can spot dry it. And I have this on high. So this is going to cure it enough to hold its shape that within just a couple of minutes of blow drying, I'm going to be able to make a hole to let the air out. And then I don't have to worry about this until it's totally dry when I'm ready to fire. So yeah, it's firming up pretty quick. Let me get the bottom. Okay. Now, I want you guys to always put your name on your work and the period number. That's going to help me locate your work and make it easier for you to find when we're unloading the kiln. So always put your name. I like to sign my name in cursive, kind of. Right. All right, so you would then put your period number down here. Now, I'm going to need that air hole so this piece doesn't crack. I'll use the paper clip again, and this is what happens if I went just like this and pulled out. Sometimes the clay, as I pierce in, sticks to the end of whatever I'm using, and when I pull it out, the clay reseals. So when you do use the needle tool or paper clip, put it in and wiggle it a little bit. It doesn't need to be very big. You don't want it so big that your little tiny balls of clay start rolling out. And then this is all you have to do. Let it dry, So there is the clay rattle, and I hope that helps, guys. Okay, that's the end for this assignment.